The fragrance counter at Macy's Herald Square smelled like 1,000 broken promises wrapped in glass. Elena Martinez stood with her last $43 folded in her palm, staring at bottles she couldn't afford while pretending to browse with purpose. "Can I help you find something?" The sales associate's smile was professional, practiced. "Just looking," Elena said, her voice carrying the exhaustion of someone who'd worked a double shift at Mount Sinai's pediatric ward. The associate drifted away. Elena's fingers hovered over a tester bottle, rose gold cap catching light. Gardenia and amber. The tag read, notes of jasmine, sandalwood, and something called midnight rain. She'd never owned expensive perfume. But standing here, 28 years old and feeling ancient, Elena wanted one thing that didn't smell like disinfectant and desperation. The tester sprayed cool against her wrist. The scent bloomed immediate and complex. Dark florals cut with something almost masculine. It settled on her skin like it had been waiting. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. She checked the price tag. $240. "It's beautiful on you." An older woman with silver hair materialized beside her. "That fragrance doesn't work on everyone, but on you it remembers." Elena felt heat climb her neck. "I can't afford it." The woman pressed a small card into her hand. "There's a boutique in Little Italy. Ask for Rosa. Tell her Margaret sent you." Before Elena could respond, the woman disappeared, leaving only the card and the lingering sense that the universe had just made an appointment Elena hadn't asked for. The address led to a narrow storefront on Mulberry Street, wedged between a bakery and a butcher shop. Inside, bottles lined hand-carved shelves, arranged by some logic Elena couldn't decipher. A woman with dark hair streaked silver looked up. "Margaret sent you." Elena held up the card. "She said you might help me find something. But I don't have much to spend." Rosa studied Elena's face. Her throat, the pulse point where the tester had left its ghost. "You're wearing traces of Nuit Eternelle." She pulled a small crystal bottle from a drawer. "This is what you need." Same notes, but made by hands that understand shadow as well as light. "How much?" $40. Rosa said it like a test. It was exactly what Elena had in her wallet. She counted out the bills, fingers trembling. Rosa wrapped the bottle carefully, then paused. "One warning. Wear it sparingly. That scent has memory. And sometimes, memory has teeth." That night in her tiny studio apartment, Elena opened the bottle. The scent rose like smoke, more complex than the tester. She touched it to her pulse points, wrists, throat, behind her ear. In the mirror she looked the same, but the scent made her feel different, made her feel seen by eyes she couldn't name. The gallery opening wasn't somewhere Elena would normally spend her Thursday evening, but her friend Asha had insisted. The converted warehouse in Chelsea was filled with people who looked like they'd stepped out of magazines Elena couldn't afford. Elena felt immediately out of place, but the perfume wrapped around her like armor. She was just beginning to relax when she felt it, the weight of attention, sudden and absolute. She turned and saw him. He stood near the back, surrounded by space that opened around him naturally. Tall, dark suit that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent, face that could have been carved from marble. He wasn't looking at the art. He was looking at her. More specifically, he had frozen completely. Wine glass halfway to his mouth, entire body gone still. Even at this distance, she could see the intensity in his eyes, the sudden razor focus of someone who'd just seen a ghost. "There's a man," Elena gestured. But he was already moving toward her, cutting through the crowd with purpose that made people step aside without conscious thought. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar, and smoke. Close enough that when he spoke, his voice landed directly in her chest. "That perfume," he said it like an accusation, like a prayer. "Where did you get it?" Elena's throat went dry. Asha had gone very quiet beside her. "I bought it," Elena managed. "From a shop in Little Italy. Rosa's shop. Not a question." He took 1 step closer. "Who are you?" "Elena Martinez." "And you are?" "Dante." He said the name like it should mean something. "Dante Carmine." The name landed with weight. Elena saw recognition flicker across nearby faces, saw the way the crowd seemed to lean away slightly. "I don't understand what this is about," Elena said. "It's just perfume. It's not just anything. His voice had gone rough. That scent, my wife wore that perfume. Only her. It was made specifically for her, a custom blend that couldn't be replicated. Past tense. War. I'm sorry for your loss, Elena said automatically. But I bought this from a shop. Rosa made it for Isabella. The name came out like he was coughing up glass. For my wife, 3 years ago, before she died. She said she'd never make it for anyone else. The gallery had gone quiet. Elena felt the attention like pressure. Maybe she changed her mind, Elena said. Rosa doesn't change her mind. Dante's eyes hadn't left her face. Which means there's a reason she made this for you. He pulled out his phone, held the screen toward her. The photograph showed a woman in an emerald dress, dark hair swept up, smile that suggested secrets, beautiful in a way that seemed almost aggressive. Isabella, my wife. Tell me you don't see it. Elena stared at the woman who had worn this scent before her. I don't know her. I've never seen her before. We're leaving, Asha announced, pulling Elena's arm. Now! But Dante's hand shot out, not grabbing but hovering. Wait, please. I need to understand why Rosa did this. If she gave you Isabella's perfume, there's a reason. Then ask her, Elena said. Dante's phone appeared again. He typed something, then looked back at her. I'm going to Rosa's shop tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. You should be there. Should I? Elena's spine straightened. Why? Because you want to know the truth as much as I do. His eyes held hers. Because coincidence has stopped being a convincing story for either of us. Asha tugged her arm again. Elena let herself be pulled backward, but her eyes stayed on Dante's face. Nina, he repeated. Rosa's shop. Don't make me come find you. The threat should have terrified her. Instead, it lit something in Elena's chest that felt dangerously like anticipation. Outside, Asha demanded, What the hell was that? Who was that guy? His name is Dante Carmine. His wife died 3 years ago. She wore this perfume. And he looked at you like you'd murdered someone. Elena's hands were shaking as she called a lift. I need to understand what this is. Why Rosa did this. You're not going to that shop. Tomorrow. I am. The certainty surprised Elena. I need answers. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Don't be late. DC. He'd gotten her number somehow. Elena found herself typing back. I'll be there. Then she deleted it without sending, refusing to give him the satisfaction. But sleep came hard that night, and when it finally arrived, it brought dreams of emerald dresses and a woman asking Elena why she'd stolen something that was never meant to be borrowed. Rosa's shop looked different in morning light. Elena arrived at 8:45, early enough to claim some control. Rosa stood behind the counter, unsurprised. You came early. Smart girl. You'll want your answers before he arrives with his questions. Elena moved closer. Why did you give me Isabella's perfume? I didn't give you Isabella's perfume. I gave you your own. It just happens to share the same notes, the same soul. That's a meaningless distinction, Elena said, frustration sharpening her voice. You knew what would happen. I recognized something in you. Rosa sipped tea. The same thing I recognized in Isabella 5 years ago. A woman standing at a crossroads she doesn't know exists yet, needing something beautiful to remind her she's still alive. So you decided to play matchmaker with a widower and a stranger? Dante Carmine hasn't left his fortress in 3 years, Rosa said quietly. Not for art, not for anything. Last night he came to a gallery. Do you know why? Elena's pulse kicked up. No. Because 2 days ago, I told him I'd seen Isabella's ghost on Mulberry Street. I told him a woman had come into my shop wearing his dead wife's presents. I told him he needed to see what the universe was trying to tell him. I'm not his dead wife's replacement. No. Rosa agreed. You're a mirror. And sometimes, the only way to see yourself clearly is through someone else's reflection. The bells chimed. Dante entered wearing charcoal gray, looking like he'd slept as poorly as Elena had. His gaze found her immediately, then shifted to Rosa. You lied to me, he said. You said you'd never make Isabella's perfume for anyone else. I didn't lie. Rosa's calm never fractured. I made a different perfume that happened to share the same notes. Don't. The word came out sharp. You knew what this would do to me. I know you've been dying slowly for 3 years, Rosa said. And that's not what Isabella wanted. Elena found her voice. What do you want from us? Because this isn't cute. This is manipulation. I want you to have a conversation, Rosa said simply. One honest conversation. After that, you can walk away and never think about this again. Or you can choose differently. I'll buy out whatever stock you need to close for an hour, Dante said. Name the price. The shop is already closed, Rosa replied, moving toward the door. You have 60 minutes. And Elena, don't let his fear make you smaller. Then she was gone, leaving them alone. Silence stretched. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. I didn't know, Elena said finally. I didn't know about your wife. I'm sorry you're in pain, but that's not my fault. Dante leaned against the counter. No, it's not your fault. Then why do you look at me like I'm responsible for something? Because you smell like her. Because when I saw you, for 3 seconds, I thought. He stopped. It doesn't matter. It does, though. Elena stepped closer. Because you're looking at me and seeing someone else. You want fair? Dante's eyes lifted. Fair would be Isabella still being alive. Fair would be the drunk driver who hit her car being sober. Fair would be me getting more than 2 years of marriage. The grief in his voice was old and new at once. Elena felt her nurse's instincts kick in. How did you meet her? Elena asked gently. Dante's expression flickered with surprise. At a hospital. Mount Sinai, actually. Elena's pulse jumped. Mount Sinai. She was a social worker. I was visiting my sister after an accident. Isabella found me in the wrong waiting room, completely lost. She said I looked like I was about to set the hospital on fire with my mind. His mouth curved slightly. She bought me terrible coffee and talked to me like I was human. Then she walked me to the right floor and told me that hospitals were where miracles and tragedies lived in the same hallways. Elena's chest tightened. She sounds like she was good at her job. She was good at everything. Dante's voice went rough. She could walk into rooms filled with dangerous men and make them feel safe enough to be honest. She could make me believe I was more than the life I'd inherited. What life did you inherit? Dante's jaw tensed. My family has been in New York for 4 generations. Restaurants, real estate, construction. Legitimate businesses built on foundations that weren't always legitimate. Understanding crystallized. Your Mafia. I'm a businessman whose grandfather made sit. Certain choices that cast long shadows. The correction was practiced. I've spent the last decade legitimizing everything, cutting ties with old alliances. But the name still carries weight. Does it make you dangerous? Elena asked. To people who threaten what's mine? Yes. Dante's eyes held hers. To you? Never. You don't know me well enough to make that promise. I know you're a nurse who came to this shop even though every instinct told you to stay away. I know you stood your ground when I came at you like a ghost. His voice dropped. I know you smell like the only person who ever made me believe I could be better. The words hung weighted. I'm not her. I'll never be her. I know. Dante's hand lifted, hovering near her face. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I need to see someone who isn't Isabella to remember I'm still alive. Elena should have stepped back. Instead, she let his palm cup her cheek, warm and careful. This is insane, she whispered. Probably, he agreed. But I've been sane for 3 years, and it nearly killed me. The door's bells chimed. They broke apart. A man in his 30s entered, well-dressed but with an edge. His eyes swept the shop, then landed on Dante. Mr. Carmine, the man said. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was looking for Rosa. The shop is closed, Dante said flatly. Come back in an hour. Of course. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. He backed out. Elena felt Dante's tension ratchet higher. Who was that? Marco Santini. He works for the Giordano family. Dante pulled out his phone, typing quickly. He shouldn't be here. Neutral ground from what? Dante looked at her. From the kind of business I've been trying to leave behind. Marco, seeing you with me means questions are being asked. And the wrong answers could make you interesting to people who shouldn't know you exist. Elena's stomach dropped. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying Marco, seeing us together means I need to make sure you get home safely. He made a call. Nico. I need a car at Rosa's shop. 2 minutes. Elena felt anger burning through shock. You don't get to start ordering my life around. You're right. I'm asking. Dante turned to face her, fear raw in his eyes. Please let me make sure you get home safely. After that, if you want to never see me again, I'll respect it. Rosa returned with a paper bag. She took in the scene and sighed. Marco was here. When? Dante asked. 3 minutes ago. Then you need to leave. Both of you. Rosa moved to the counter. Dante, take her somewhere safe. Somewhere the Giordanos don't have eyes. I have an apartment, Elena protested. A job. A life. You can call in sick. Rosa's voice was gentle but firm. Elena, these men don't play by rules you understand. If they think you're leverage against Dante, they'll use you. Elena thought about her studio apartment, her patients, her normal life becoming collateral damage. 3 days, she said finally. But, after that I go back to my life. Agreed, Dante said. The black Mercedes waiting outside looked like expensive armor. Elena slid inside onto leather that probably cost more than her rent. Dante followed, maintaining careful distance. Your shift ends at what time? He asked. 3 p.m. You'll have time for proper handoff. But after that, straight to your apartment. Pack light, practical. They rode in silence. Elena watched the city and wondered how wanting to smell nice had spiraled into witness protection. Tell me about Isabella, she said suddenly. Not how she died, how she lived. Dante's hand flexed. She laughed like she'd never heard of consequences. She collected ridiculous socks. She walked into my life and demanded I remember I had a conscience. When did you fall in love? The night she told me I was being an idiot. Dante's mouth curved. I'd closed a deal that would have made millions but destroyed a family business. She showed up at my office and told me that money was easy. Integrity was expensive. And if I was going to ask her to marry me, which I hadn't, yet I needed to decide which one I wanted. She knew you were going to propose? She always knew what I was going to do before I did. She said yes before I even got the ring out. The car pulled up to Mount Sinai. Elena reached for the door. 3 p.m., Dante reminded her. If you see anyone who makes you uncomfortable, call me immediately. He handed her a card with a single number. Elena took it. This is insane. You know that, right? Welcome to my world, Dante said. I'm sorry you have to visit. Her shift passed in a blur. She checked on Sophia, helped a mother navigate insurance paperwork, held steady while a father broke down after surgery. Normal. This was her normal. At 2:45, she changed out of scrubs. Asha found her. You're leaving on time? What happened with the perfume man? It's complicated. I'll text you later. Elena. Asha caught her arm. Are you in trouble? I'm fine. 3 days. I'll explain everything. She left before Asha could ask more questions. Found the Mercedes waiting. The driver, Nico, opened the door without speaking. The back seat was empty. Dante wasn't there. Mr. Carmine is handling a security matter, Nico said. He asked me to ensure you pack efficiently. Elena packed jeans, sweaters, her phone charger, the photograph of her mother, toiletries, her laptop, the book she'd been meaning to finish. At the last moment, she tucked the perfume bottle into a sock. Nico waited in the hallway, eyes scanning constantly. When Elena emerged, he nodded and gestured toward the stairs. Stairs are easier to monitor, he explained. They reached the lobby without incident, crossed to the Mercedes, and slid into traffic. Where are we going? Elena asked. Connecticut, Nico answered. About 90 minutes north. Remote, secure, stocked with everything you need. Mr. Carmine will join you this evening. The safe house appeared, at the end of a long driveway through thick woods. Stone and timber, more cabin than mansion, with solar panels and barely visible security cameras. Nico pulled around back. Inside, quickly. The interior was surprisingly comfortable. Open floor plan, kitchen that looked used, furniture that invited. Everything was clean, warm. 4 bedrooms upstairs, Nico said, checking windows and doors. Kitchen is stocked. Internet is secure. Cell reception is excellent. He pulled out a small device. This is a panic button. Press it. Hold for 3 seconds, and you'll have armed response in under 10 minutes. He handed it to her. Elena took it, the weight somehow heavier than it should have been. I'll be in the security office, Nico continued. You won't see me unless something's wrong. But I'm here. Then he was gone, leaving Elena alone in a safe house that suddenly felt like a complicated cage. She carried her bag upstairs, chose the guest room farthest from the master suite, and unpacked the perfume bottle she left in her bag, still wrapped. Her phone buzzed. "Settled in?" Elena typed back. "If by settled you mean questioning all my life choices, then yes." His response came fast. "Welcome to the club. Meeting in 5 hours. I'll bring dinner." She should have told him not to bother. Instead, she found herself checking her reflection, running fingers through her hair, wondering if she should change. "Stop," she told her reflection. "This is not a date. Do not get confused." But her reflection looked back skeptically. Dante arrived as the sun was setting, carrying bags that smelled like actual food. He'd changed jeans and a charcoal sweater that made him look less dangerous and more real. "I brought Italian," he said, heading straight for the kitchen. From a place that doesn't ask questions and doesn't skimp on garlic, Elena followed, watching him unpack containers. He moved through the kitchen with familiarity. "You've been here before," Elena observed. "I own." Dante glanced up. "Isabella and I bought it the year we got married. She wanted a place where we could disappear. We spent maybe a dozen weekends here before she died. Maybe I should stay somewhere else." "There is nowhere else." Dante set down the wine bottle. "Not nowhere that's as secure. I know this is uncomfortable, but I'd rather you be uncomfortable than in danger." "What exactly do the Giordanos want?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Territory, leverage. When Isabella died, I withdrew from a lot of business. The Giordanos have been filling the vacuum, but they're hungry. They want more. And what's that? Shipping contracts, real estate, city council connections." He picked up his glass. "I've been liquidating slowly, trying not to create power vacuums. But the Giordanos don't like slow." Elena sipped wine. "If you're leaving anyway, why not just let them have it?" "Because it includes people. Families who've worked for my family for generations. Restaurants, construction, companies, shipping operations. If I hand everything to the Giordanos, those people become collateral damage." The conviction in his voice surprised her. "So you're trying to dismantle an empire without letting it collapse on everyone underneath." "That's the poetic version." Dante started plating food. "The practical version is that I'm trying to get out before someone decides I'm worth more dead than alive." They ate at the small table overlooking the darkening woods. The food was excellent, rich, and comforting. "Tell me about your family," Dante said. Elena swallowed pasta. "My mother. She lives in the Bronx, works 2 jobs. She wanted me to be a doctor, settled for nurse. I think she's still disappointed." "Are you close?" "We're complicated." Elena turned her wine glass. "She sacrificed everything to give me chances she never had. I appreciate it. I also resent it. Both things can be true." Dante nodded slowly. "Isabella used to say that family was where love and obligation, braided together so tight you couldn't tell them apart. She sounds like she was wise. She was 29 when she died." His voice went rough. "Too young to be wise." Elena set down her fork. "Can I ask you something? And can you promise to answer honestly?" "I can promise to try. Do you think Rosa is right? That you've been dying slowly for 3 years?" Dante's defenses lowered. "I think I've been existing, going through motions. And then she died, and choosing felt pointless." "That's not dying slowly," Elena said quietly. "That's grief. And grief is allowed to take time." "How much time?" Dante's eyes lifted, raw. "When does it stop feeling like I'm betraying her every time I laugh? Every time I imagine a future without her?" The words hung between them, confession and question braided together. "I don't think it ever stops," Elena said carefully. "I think you just learn to carry it differently." "Never?" Dante's gaze sharpened. "I've been too busy surviving to prioritize romance. Love feels like a luxury." "That's the saddest thing I've heard in a long time," Dante said. "It's practical. Some of us get tragedies, and some of us get second acts we didn't ask for. The question is whether we're brave enough to accept them." The conversation was getting too close to things Elena wasn't ready to name. She stood, gathering plates. "I should clean up. Leave it." Dante's hand caught her wrist, gentle. "Please, sit with me for a few more minutes. You're better company than silence." Elena should have pulled away. Instead, she let him guide her back to her chair, let him refill her wine glass. "Tell me something true," Dante said. "Something that costs you." Elena considered lying, then decided honesty was less exhausting. I'm terrified. Not of the Giordanos. I'm terrified that I'm going to start depending on this. On you. On feeling protected and seen. Because in 3 days, I go back to my life where nobody notices if I'm struggling. And it's going to feel emptier than it did before. The confession left her breathless. Dante's expression softened. What if it doesn't have to be 3 days? He asked quietly. What if you let me keep paying attention after this is over? Why would you want to? You're everything Isabella taught me to recognize as valuable. You're kind without expecting reward. You're strong without needing to prove it. His hand found hers. That's not nobody. That's someone worth knowing. You're comparing me to her again. No. Dante's hand threaded through hers. I'm recognizing qualities I learned to value because of her. That's different. You're not Isabella. But you're someone I want to know for reasons that have nothing to do with ghosts. Elena's breath caught. His thumb traced circles on her hand. This is too fast. Isabella said yes after 3 weeks, Dante murmured. Sometimes you just know. And sometimes you're wrong. Then let me be reckless. Dante stood, pulling her up, closing the space, until she had to tilt her head back. Let me take this risk. Let me see where this goes. And if in 3 days you want to go back to your life, I'll respect it. But give me 3 days to convince you. Elena knew she should say no. Knew that letting a grieving widower project his lost love onto a stranger was unhealthy. But his hand was warm, and his eyes held something that looked like hope, and she was so tired of being sensible and alone. 3 days, she heard herself say. But if you're doing this because I remind you of her, I need you to stop now. You're not a replacement. Dante's hand cupped her face. You're a revelation. The reminder that I'm still alive and allowed to feel things. Then he was kissing her, and Elena was kissing him back, and the world narrowed to the point of connection, his mouth on hers. Gentle, then deeper. She answered by rising on her toes, by gripping his sweater. He tasted like wine, and want, and 3 years of loneliness. She tasted like surrender she hadn't known she was ready to make. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I should go to my room, Elena whispered, but she didn't move. You should, Dante agreed, but his hands were on her hips, keeping her close. This is a terrible idea. Probably the worst. Dante's mouth curved against her temple. Stay anyway. Just to talk, just to not be alone. So she stayed. They moved to the couch, maintaining distance that kept getting smaller. They talked about everything and nothing, her worst patient stories, his best memories of Isabella without grief, choking them, the city they both loved and resented. Around midnight, if you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Elena's head found Dante's shoulder. His arm came around her, natural as breathing. Tell me about the Giordanos, Elena said, half asleep. Why now? Why after 3 years? Dante's chest rose and fell. I don't know yet. That's what worries me. Marco showing up at Rosa's shop, that was reconnaissance. They're gathering information. Could they know about this place? No. This property is buried under shell corporations. Isabella set it up. She wanted one place that was just ours, untouchable. His arm tightened. You're safe here. I promise. You can't promise that. Then I promise I'll try so hard the universe has no choice but to cooperate. Elena smiled against his sweater. Exhaustion finally catching up. Her eyes were drifting closed. I should go upstairs, she mumbled. In a minute, Dante murmured, and she felt his lips brush her head. Rest for a minute first. The minute stretched into an hour, then 2. When Elena finally woke, the fire had burned to embers and weak sunlight filtered through windows. She was on the couch with a blanket, and Dante was gone. Panic flared until she heard sounds from the kitchen, someone making coffee and burning toast. Elena sat up, finger-combing her hair. Her phone showed 3 texts from Asha demanding updates and 1 from an unknown number. That made her stomach drop. Stop hiding. It makes you more interesting, not less. She was staring at it when Dante appeared with 2 mugs, his expression suggesting he'd already had his own unpleasant wake-up. Marco texted you, he said. Not a question. How did you? Because he texted me too, and Nico, and probably Rosa. Dante handed her a mug, jaw tight. He wants us to know he can reach you anytime. Elena's hands shook around the ceramic. What does he want? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Dante showed her a series of messages. Marco asking about her background. Marco mentioning her mother's address. Marco suggesting nurses made wonderful targets. He's threatening my mother. Elena's voice pitched higher. He's reminding me that everyone I care about becomes leverage. Dante's expression was granite. Classic move. Make me understand that staying away from you won't keep you safe, only cooperation will. Cooperation with what? I don't know yet, but I will. He scrolled through messages. Nico's been tracking his movements. Marco met with someone from the DA's office yesterday. Then he visited 3 of my former properties. Elena stood, needing to move. This is insane. I bought Perfume. How does that turn into my mother being threatened? Because I made you interesting by protecting you. Dante set down his phone. If I'd let you walk away at the gallery, Marco would have dismissed you. But I put you in my car. I brought you to a safe house. I made it clear you matter. That was the mistake. So this is your fault? Elena heard the accusation. Yes. Dante didn't flinch. This is my fault, my world, my responsibility to fix. But Elena, I need you to understand something. Even knowing the cost, I'd make the same choice. Because letting you face danger alone, that's not something I'm capable of doing. The admission should have felt like manipulation. Instead, it felt like truth delivered without armor. What do we do? She asked. Finally. We wait. Dante moved to the window. We let Nico gather intelligence. We stay here where I control the variables. And we prepare. Prepare how? Dante turned back. I teach you how to survive in my world. Even if it's just for 3 days. I need to know you can protect yourself. You want to teach me what? How to shoot people? I want to teach you how to think like someone who expects betrayal. How to spot surveillance. How to know when a situation is about to turn dangerous. How to disappear if you need to. His voice was urgent. I want to give you tools that I pray you'll never have to use. Elena wanted to argue. But she thought about the text message, the casual mention of her mother's address. Okay, she said quietly. Teach me. They spent the morning turning the safe house into an impromptu classroom. Nico emerged to contribute expertise, and between the 2 of them, Elena got a crash course in operational awareness. She learned how to check a car for tracking, devices, how to spot a tail, how to use reflective surfaces to monitor who was behind her, how to identify armed security trying to look like civilians. Your advantage, Nico explained, is that most people underestimate women. Especially women in caring professions. You use that. You let them think you're scared while you're actually cataloging their positions and planning your exit. By lunch, Elena's head was swimming with information that felt simultaneously essential and absurd. You're a quick study, Dante said. That's good. I'm terrified. Elena corrected. That makes people take things seriously. Her phone buzzed with another text. Asha, girl, where are you? Your supervisor called me asking if you're okay. Elena showed the message to Dante, who frowned. Marco's escalating. He's making sure people notice you're gone. I need to call my supervisor. Elena said. Use this. Dante pulled out his secure phone. The line's encrypted. But keep it vague. Family emergency, nothing specific. The call was awkward. She arranged for extended sick leave, hating the damage to her professional reputation. When she hung up, Dante was watching her with guilt. I'm sorry. I know this costs you. It's 3 days, Elena said, though the timeline was starting to feel less certain. Can you? Dante's question was gentle. Can you go back to riding the subway alone after you've learned how to spot a tail? Can you walk into your apartment without checking for surveillance? Can you trust that Marco won't decide you're still interesting 6 months from now? Elena felt something cold settle. You're saying this isn't temporary. I'm saying I don't know. Dante's honesty was brutal. I'm saying that once you enter this world, even as collateral damage, it remembers you. The afternoon brought rain, turning the woods gothic and moody. Elena stood at the window watching water sheet down glass. Dante found her there. I need to tell you something about Isabella's death, he said quietly. Something I haven't told anyone. Elena turned to face him. You don't owe me your trauma. I know. But you deserve context. He moved to the couch, sitting heavily. After a moment, Elena joined him. The official report said she was hit by a drunk driver who ran a red light. Quick, tragic, nobody's fault. But, Elena prompted. But Isabella was driving home from a meeting with a family lawyer. She'd been helping a woman get her kids away from an abusive father who had connections to the Giordanos. The case was messy. Dangerous. Dante's voice had gone flat. The drunk driver was a low-level Giordano associate who happened to be coming off a 48-hour bender at the exact moment Isabella's car would be passing through that intersection. Elena's breath caught. You think it was intentional? I think coincidences are expensive in my world. I think the timing was perfect, and the investigation was closed too quickly. His hands fisted. For 3 years, I've been telling myself I imagined the conspiracy. But now Marco's showing interest? And the timing right as the drunk driver gets released feels like another coincidence I can't afford to believe in. You think they're coming after you again, Elena said slowly. And they're using me because I'm the first person you've shown interest in since Isabella died. I think they want me to know they can still reach the people I care about. That leaving the business doesn't make me safe. Dante finally looked at her. I'm sorry you walked into this, but I'm not sorry enough to let anything happen to you. Elena reached for his hand without conscious decision. What do? We set a trap. Dante's grip tightened. We give Marco what he wants, a meeting, a conversation. But we control the variables. We choose the location, the timing, the witnesses, and we record everything. That sounds dangerous. It is, but so is hiding. At least this way, we're choosing our danger. He brought her, hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. I won't let them touch you, whatever it costs. Elena wanted to believe him. But she'd spent too many years watching people make promises their bodies couldn't keep. How do we set a trap for someone who's been playing this game longer than I've been alive? Dante's smile was sharp, cold. We remember that I was raised by wolves, and sometimes, the best way to catch a predator is to remind them you know how to bite back. The meeting was set for noon on the 3rd day, at a restaurant in Little Italy that had been serving the neighborhood since before anyone currently alive could remember. Neutral ground, Rosa had called it. Dante had chosen carefully. The owner owed him favors, and the private back room had sightlines that favored defense. More importantly, it had witnesses enough people that Marco couldn't do anything dramatic without consequences. Elena wore the black dress from the gallery, armor disguised as elegance, and the perfume that had started everything. Dante had looked at her strangely when the scent hit him. You didn't have to wear that, he'd said quietly. Yes, I did. Elena met his eyes. If we're walking in there pretending I'm someone worth threatening, I need to look like I believe it. And this perfume makes me believe it. The drive into the city was silent. Nico behind the wheel, Dante beside Elena with his hand finding hers. His thumb traced patterns on her palm, anxiety or comfort, she couldn't tell which. You remember the signals? He asked. If I touch my necklace, I need out. If I stand up suddenly, there's immediate danger. If I mention your sister's name, call the police. Elena recited the protocols. I remember. Scared is smart. Dante said. Scared keeps you alive. The restaurant appeared red brick facade, awning faded by decades. Rosa waited outside, arms crossed, expression stern. This isn't what I intended, she said as they approached. Intentions and outcomes rarely hold hands, Dante replied. Is he here? Back room. 2 men with him, both armed. The owner's nephew is bartending, so we have eyes. They entered through the front, past tables of old men drinking espresso, past the kitchen where something simmered. The back room door was open, Marco Santini standing beside it like a maitre d' from hell. Mr. Carmine, Marco said, smile sharp, and the beautiful nurse Martinez. I'm so glad you could join us. Let's not pretend this is social, Dante replied. His hand stayed on Elena's lower back. The back room was smaller than expected, intimate in a way that made Elena's skin crawl. A single table set for 4, red wine already poured. 2 men stood against the far wall, hands clasped, the universal posture of security trying to look non-threatening. And at the head of the table sat a man Elena had never seen before, older than Marco, 60s maybe, with silver hair and a face that suggested cruelty had reshaped it. He wore a suit that probably cost what Elena made in 3 months. Dante, the man said, standing with fluid grace. It's been too long. 3 years, I think. Not since Isabella's funeral. Victor. Dante's voice was carved from ice. I didn't know you were joining this meeting. Marco works for me. Of course I'm here. Victor Giordano gestured to the empty chairs. Please, sit, eat. We're civilized people. Dante pulled out Elena's chair. She sat, hyper-aware of the men at the wall, of the single exit behind Victor, of the panic button disguised as lipstick in her purse. Let's skip the pretense, Dante said, remaining standing. You've been sending messages, threatening people I care about. What do you want? Victor sipped wine, making them wait. I want what your grandfather promised my father 40 years ago. The Port Authority contracts, the shipping schedules, the customs connections. You've been liquidating assets, but those remain in Carmine hands. I want them transferred to me. Those contracts employ 300 people, Dante said. Good people. Families who've worked the docks for generations. You'll gut the operation for profit. I'll run it efficiently. Victor's smile held no warmth. Sentiment doesn't belong in business. Your father understood that. Isabella's influence made you soft. Isabella's influence made me remember I had a soul. Dante's voice dropped. Dangerous. Then you won't miss the contracts when I take them. Victor's gaze slid to Elena, lingering. Although I notice you've found new things to care about. It's amazing how quickly grief can be replaced. Dante's hand came down on Elena's chair, knuckles white. Leave her out of this. She's already in it. Victor leaned forward. The moment you put her in your car, brought her to your safe house, yes. We know about Connecticut now, you made her a piece on the board. So, let's discuss how valuable a piece she is. Elena found her voice, pushing past fear into anger. I'm not a piece. I'm a person who bought Perfume and got dragged into a decades-old pissing match between men who can't let go of their father's grudges. Victor's eyebrows lifted. She has spirit. Tell me, Nurse Martinez, do you understand what kind of man you've attached yourself to? Do you know how many people have disappeared because they became inconvenient to the Carmine family? I know that Dante is trying to leave this life, Elena said, keeping her voice steady. I know that you won't let him because you need an enemy. And I know that threatening me won't get you what you want. Won't it? Victor's smile widened. Marco, show our guests what we've prepared. Marco pulled out a tablet, setting it on the table. The screen showed a live feed, grainy but clear, of a small apartment in the Bronx. Elena's stomach dropped as she recognized her mother's living room, her mother visible through the window, folding laundry. That's being recorded right now, Victor said conversationally, as is your friend Asha's apartment, and the pediatric ward at Mount Sinai. We could watch you all day, and you'd never know. Elena's hand went to her necklace, the signal. Dante's body went rigid. You made your point, Dante said, voice like gravel. You can reach them. Now tell me what it takes to make this stop. The contracts. Full transfer within 7 days. No legal challenges, no delays, no federal investigations. Victor's eyes gleamed. And you disappear. No more Carmine presence in New York. Take your nurse, take your money, go live somewhere else. You get your exit, I get my birthright. Everyone walks away. And if I refuse, then I stop being patient about people who are in my way. Victor's smile disappeared. Isabella was in my way. The social worker who thought testifying against my cousin was heroic. She learned otherwise. The room went silent. Elena felt Dante's rage like heat radiating. You're admitting you killed my wife. I'm admitting that sometimes accidents are carefully arranged. That drunk drivers can be persuaded to be in certain places at certain times. Victor spread his hands. You wanted out, Dante. I helped you get out. And now I'm collecting my fee. Everything happened very fast. Dante lunged across the table, wine glasses shattering, hands going for Victor's throat. Marco's men moved forward, drawing weapons. Elena grabbed the panic button from her purse, pressing it once, twice, 3 times. One of Marco's men grabbed Elena, arm around her throat. She remembered Nico's training: go limp first, then drive your elbow into their solar plexus with everything you have. She did. The man grunted, grip loosening. Elena twisted free, grabbing the wine bottle from the table and swinging it with commitment. Glass shattered against the man's temple. He went down hard. The back door burst open, not police, but Nico and 3 other men. They moved with military precision, weapons drawn, creating a perimeter. Federal agents are en route. Nico announced. As our NYPD, I'd suggest everyone remain very still, unless they'd like additional charges. Victor's face had gone purple, blood from where Dante's fist had connected trickling down his cheek. You're recording this. Every word, Dante confirmed, standing slowly. Rose's nephew isn't just a bartender. He's a film student with a passion for justice and very good hidden cameras. Your confession about Isabella is already uploaded to 3 different cloud servers and flagged for automatic release if anything happens to me, Elena, or anyone we care about. Victor's men had frozen. Marco looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Sirens wailed in the distance. Through the windows, Elena could see police cars pulling up, lights flashing. You set me up, Victor said, voice filled with venom. You confessed to murdering my wife because you thought you were invincible, Dante corrected. I just gave you enough rope and recorded you hanging yourself with it. Federal agents flooded the restaurant. Victor was cuffed first, Marco second, their security team secured with efficient professionalism. Elena stood against the wall, shaking with adrenaline, watching the man who'd threatened her mother get read his rights. The man who'd ordered Isabella's death. It took 2 hours for preliminary statements to be recorded. An FBI agent told Elena, "You're going to need actual protection now. Giordano has associates, family, I know," Elena said. Dante already has plans. Dante Carmine is a civilian trying to leave criminal enterprise, the agent corrected carefully. He's not equipped to provide long-term security. I'll be fine. Elena stood. Thank you for your concern. She found Dante outside, leaning against Nico's car, tie loosened, looking exhausted and relieved, and somehow younger. The weight he'd been carrying, grief and guilt, seemed lighter now. Hey, she said, suddenly shy. Hey, he echoed, pulling her into his arms without hesitation. She went, willingly, letting herself be held, letting the reality of survival sink in through skin and warmth, and his heartbeat against her ear. You hit someone with a wine bottle, Dante murmured into her hair, something like awe in his voice. Nico said, you've got excellent form. I learn fast, Elena said, then started laughing because the alternative was crying. Is it over? Is this actually over? The immediate threat? Yes. Victor's going to prison for a very long time. Marco's cooperating in exchange for reduced charges. The contracts are going to be placed in a trust that prioritizes employee welfare. Dante pulled back enough to see her face, hands framing her jaw. But the complicated part, figuring out what we do now, that's just beginning. Elena's heart did something acrobatic. What do you want to do now? I want to take you somewhere without surveillance cameras or panic buttons. I want to buy you dinner at a restaurant where nobody's plotting murder. I want to learn what productine you look like when you're not terrified. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I want to see if this thing between us can survive normal. If you'll let me. I'm still a broke nurse with student loans and an apartment that smells like old coffee. Elena warned. You're still a reformed mob boss with more money than God and a murdered wife you loved. Those things don't just disappear. No, Dante agreed. But maybe they don't have to disappear. Maybe they just become part of the story instead of the whole story. Elena rose on her toes, kissing him in full daylight with federal agents and police officers, providing an audience nobody had asked for. He kissed her back like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped believing anyone would ask. When they broke apart, she said, okay, let's try normal. But if normal includes any more wine bottles or panic buttons, I'm out. Deal, Dante said, grinning in a way that made him look nothing like the dangerous man who'd lunged across a table, and everything like someone who'd just remembered how to hope. 3 months later, Elena stood in the kitchen of the Connecticut house, no longer quite so safe. No longer quite so secret, making coffee that was significantly better than hospital vending machine offerings. Fall had turned to early winter, the woods outside frosted with the season's first snow. Dante appeared in the doorway, hair rumpled from sleep, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Elena handed him a mug. I was thinking. Dangerous, he teased, but his eyes were warm. Victor's trial starts next week. Elena said it like confession. They're going to want me to testify. I need to know this is real, that we're not just trauma bonded, That when the trial's over and the headlines fade, you'll still look at me like this." Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Isabella would have liked you. Not because you're similar, you're not, but because you're exactly the kind of person she valued. Someone who walks into burning buildings because patients need her. Someone who hits grown men with wine bottles when they threaten people she cares about. Someone who's brave enough to call me on my bullshit while still choosing to be here." He moved closer, hands finding her hips. "This is real, Elena. Maybe it started with perfume and coincidence and Rosa's matchmaking, but it's real because you make me laugh, because you challenge me, because you've never once let me hide behind money or power or grief. You see me, and you stay anyway. That's not trauma. That's choice." Elena's eyes stung with tears she refused to shed. "I'm terrified of how much I've come to need you." "Then don't go back." Dante said it simply. "Move in here. Commute to the city for work if you want. Or I'll help you find something closer. Or take time to figure out what you actually want instead of what you've settled for. But stop treating this like it has an expiration date. Stop waiting for me to realize I made a mistake. I didn't. You're not a mistake. Your family is mostly in prison or retired." Dante's smile was wry. "The relatives I still talk to are thrilled I'm dating someone who isn't involved in criminal enterprise. The city will gossip and speculate, and eventually get bored." He cupped her face. "Elena, stop borrowing problems from a future that hasn't happened yet. Be here, with me, right now. That's all I'm asking." She kissed him instead of answering, pouring 3 months of fear and hope and desperate wanting into the connection. He responded with equal intensity, backing her against the counter. When they finally broke apart, Elena said, "I'll need to keep my apartment for a while. Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case you realize reformed crime bosses and broke nurses don't actually make sense in the real world." But she was smiling when she said it. "Then we'll be senseless together," Dante said, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, the corner of her mouth. "I can live with that if you can." Elena thought about the perfume bottle still sitting on her dresser upstairs, the one Rosa had given her with such careful intention. Thought about Isabella's ghost, which had stopped feeling like haunting and started feeling like blessing. Thought about the way coincidence and fate and simple human need could braid together into something neither logical nor inevitable, but real nonetheless. "I can live with that," she said finally. "But I'm keeping the panic button, just in case." Dante laughed, the sound filling the kitchen with warmth. "Deal. I'll keep mine too. We can be paranoid together." The trial came and went. Victor Giordano got 30 years for Isabella's murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and a host of other charges. Marco testified, entered witness protection, and became someone else's problem. Elena's testimony was brief, factual, stripped of emotional weight. She explained the perfume, the gallery, the threats, the restaurant confession. She looked Victor in the eye and didn't flinch, and when it was over, Dante was waiting in the hallway exactly like he'd promised. Her mother came to visit in January, skeptical and protective and ultimately charmed by Dante's willingness to be interrogated. "You're sure about this?" she asked Elena privately. "I'm not sure about anything," Elena admitted, "but I'm sure I want to find out." Her mother smiled, the expression soft. "Your father proposed after 3 weeks. Everyone said we were crazy. We got 20 good years before he died. Crazy isn't always wrong." By spring, Elena had officially moved in, her studio apartment sublet to a resident who needed cheap housing. She'd transferred to a hospital in Connecticut. Pediatric oncology. Smaller department but good people and a commute that didn't require an hour on the subway. She kept the perfume, but she wore it less frequently now. It had served its purpose, brought her to Dante, through danger, into something that looked increasingly like love. But she didn't need it anymore to feel seen, to feel valuable, to feel like she existed in a way that mattered. Rosa came to visit in May, bringing flowers and wine, and the satisfied expression of someone whose schemes had worked out despite numerous obstacles. "I told you," she said, settling into the porch swing. "I saw 2 lonely souls who needed each other. The universe simply required some persuasion. The universe required wiretaps and federal investigations," Elena corrected, but she was smiling. "Subtle is overrated." Rosa sipped her tea, watching Dante with appraising eyes. "He's better now? Lighter? The grief is still there, it always will be. But it's not crushing him anymore." "No." Elena agreed quietly. It's not. That night, after Rosa had left and dinner dishes were washed and the house had settled into evening quiet, Dante found Elena on the porch, watching stars appear over trees. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Elena's heart jumped. Dante, it's not what you think. Open it. Inside lay a silver pendant, delicate and simple, shaped like a small perfume bottle with a cap that unscrewed. The kind of thing that could hold a drop or two of scent. Isabella wore something similar, Dante said quietly. Different design, but the same concept. She said it reminded her that beauty was portable, that you could carry small pieces of grace into dark places. He took the pendant, moving behind Elena to clasp it around her neck. I'm not asking you to be her. I'm asking you to remember that you brought beauty back into my life when I'd forgotten it existed. Elena touched the pendant, feeling its weight settle against her collarbone. Thank you. It's perfect. You're welcome. Dante's arms came around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder as they both looked out at the woods and the stars and the future. I love you, you know. In case that wasn't clear, from the reforming my entire life and catching murderers and learning to make decent coffee. Elena turned in his arms, framing his face with her hands. I love you too. Even though you're terrible at loading the dishwasher and you hog the blankets, and you still check reflections for threats everywhere we go. Some habits die hard, Dante said, grinning. Good thing I like your habits. Elena kissed him, slow and certain. Even the paranoid ones. They stood on the porch as stars multiplied overhead. Two people who'd found each other through coincidence that stopped looking coincidental the closer you examined it. A perfume maker with a sense of timing. A dead woman's final gift. A living woman's courage. Sometimes grace arrived wearing strangers' faces and smelling like gardenias. Sometimes justice required wine bottles and wiretaps. Sometimes love was exactly as complicated and simple as choosing to stay even when leaving would be easier. Elena wore the pendant every day after that. Some days she filled it with the perfume that had started everything. Other days she left it empty. Just a reminder that beauty didn't always need substance to exist. It was enough to know it was there, portable and present. Grace carried into dark places until they learned to generate their own light. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.